Hello and welcome to week 2 of The Buzz. Now, if you've ever eaten at Valentino's, you know that it's almost an obligatory thing to get a salad before your meal. You see the salad bar there and you think, I better eat some because I don't want it to go to waste. But we all know we're all eyeing the pizza, we're eyeing the lasagna, we're eyeing everything else on the buffet. This week we get to go to the buffet. We had our salad last week and now it's time to fill ourselves up with some football.
Yummy.
I'm Tom Behmer and I'm going to tell you about it. I forgot to introduce myself last week and I almost did this week. Glad I remembered there. First off, there were some really good games last week. I don't think there was any game better than Norfolk Catholic's 30-20 win over Columbus Lakeview. The Knights trailed 13-0 at halftime as Jack Shadley, Lakeview's junior quarterback, completed 12 of 20 passes for 200 yards while building that lead. But the Knights kind of tightened the hatchet on defense. Tightened the hatchet, huh? They tightened up their defense a little bit. They got their offense going, especially on the offensive line. They pounded their way to well over 200 yards rushing. Jackson Love alone in the second half had 106 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground as the Knights were able to pull it off, and they're going to be tested again this week. Norfolk Catholic playing another state-rated team this week. It'll be number 8 Wahoo Neumann. Of course, that one will be live streamed at norfolkdailynews.com. The Knights are going to have to improve their passing game just a little bit. The problem last week wasn't necessarily the protection for quarterback Jordan Beller, nor was it the fact that he wasn't throwing his passes or hitting his receivers. They were just dropping balls early. I got a feeling they'll have that figured out and they'll be ready to go. A couple other teams that are going to be tested this week. Up in Pierce, Boone Central will travel to Pierce. Both teams had pretty big wins to start the year. Boone Central a 40-0 win over West Point Beamer. Blake Slazowski, the senior running back, eclipsed the 100-yard mark. Now, he's one of those guys who's been a tremendous sprinter throughout his high school career. It really seems to be coming around on the field for him as well now. Pierce had a couple 100-yard rushers. Nate Meyer, on I think just 12 carries, was well over the 100-yard mark, and Trent Speaker hit 100 yards with just 6 carries. But like Boone Central, the Blue Jays relied on their defense in a 41-0 win over David City. This could be one of those games that's a 7-6 battle because the defenses, early on at least, just seem to be that good. And 8-man, there's a showdown up in Pender. Guardian Angels Central Catholic travels to play the Pendragons on Friday night. As far as Guardian Angels Central Catholic goes, 2 straight trips to the state championship game, and I hold up 3 fingers. I'm a really bright guy. 2 straight trips to the state championship game in Class D1. They won it 2 years ago. They finished as the runner-up last year. They returned Nate Haas, who's as dynamic as a running back as you're going to find in Class D football. Nearly hit the 2,000-yard mark on the ground last year. He's back for more this year. They also returned quarterback Eric Wheatfeld, who last year was just learning on the job and still managed to hit nearly 1,500 yards through the air. Pender has one of the best set of linebackers in Class D1, led by Ben Burmester, who's also actually a 1,000-yard running back. Another team that's going to be tested this week, and you know everyone's going to be tested, it's week 1. But another team that's going to be tested is Bloomfield. Last week they had a pretty convincing 36-6 win over O'Neill St. Mary's. This week they're going to travel to Hartington. Hartington's got a guy who's a little bit like Bloomfield quarterback Chet Beckman. Beckman last year showed me that he was one of the best running quarterbacks in the state. Against St. Mary's, he threw it all over the place. Hartington has someone very similar to him in quarterback Nick Miller. Last week, Miller ran for 171 yards and 5 touchdowns. I have a feeling that if Miller can get half of those numbers, it's going to keep Hartington in the game. Of course, you gotta prepare for Beckman, Alec Wilson. The stable of running backs, the stable of talent in Bloomfield this year is pretty deep. Also, what's pretty deep for us is our live streaming coverage. Like I mentioned, Thursday night, Wahoo Neumann at Norfolk Catholic, 7 o'clock. Friday afternoon, 4:30, Fremont Bergen at Lutheran High Northeast. Friday night at 8 o'clock, you have Kearney High traveling to Norfolk. And next week, we kick off our volleyball live streaming as Lutheran High Northeast travels to Norfolk Catholic for the big city rivalry Tuesday at 7:30. Then we're back to the football field Friday, 7 o'clock, Wisner Pilger traveling to Lutheran High Northeast. And don't forget, Eddie on the Spot returns next week to The Buzz, as do I. I will see you then.
Yummy.